Hey everyone, welcome to the Be Bold, Make Waves podcast, a show bringing you inspiring stories of women who are growing and scaling their business. I'm your host, Laura Comark, a website and tech integration specialist who works with online business owners who love their work and not their website. Join me as we have incredible conversations about business, mindset, productivity, and of course, the website and tech behind the business. Let's go ahead and dive in to this week's episode. Hello and welcome to this week's show. I'm so excited for everyone to be here today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Laura Comark. I'm a website and tech integration specialist who works with women who love their work, but not their website. My guest today is Anna Bradley. She is wife to Dave and mom of four. She started her business, Most Sincerely Anna, in 2019 and is a Dubsado Specialist who enjoys helping mom CEOs build profitable businesses through efficiency and connection. When she's not working, you can find her spending time with her family, enjoying the outdoors, or an adventure in Italy. My kind of gal. Anna, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Can you tell our listeners a little bit more about you and how you help people?
I am thrilled to be here. And of course, I would love to talk about that. It's probably everyone's favorite topic, right? I have started my business back in 2019 and love helping build connection and have found a way to do that through automation, which is not typical. But I love just being a little unique in that way. Kind of a backstory. My children are all almost grown. My youngest is 17. And so about, it's been 3.5 years. And I realized that the part-time job that I had wasn't going to cut it because my husband was traveling without me and I was having to work around my part-time schedule, and I just didn't feel like that was something that I wanted to do anymore. Plus we were homeschooling our kids and wanted to be, more involved in that, needed to be, in fact. And so I started this business and I started as a VA. I had no idea that even existed, but was quickly introduced to the online space and actually loved being a VA at the beginning because I feel like it gave me kind of a overall view of everything. And then as I got accustomed to that, I knew that I needed to niche down and I wasn't sure what, but started doing social media management. And then I started setting up my business in Dubsado and loved that and knew that is exactly where I needed to be. So now I help online service providers, social media managers, website designers, branding designers, just really anyone who can do like a one-on-one type business. So that also includes coaches and things too.
I love that. And I can relate to that so much. I actually, when I was first starting out, I went the VA route as well. And I really enjoyed it because I like doing a lot of different things and having some variety. Mm-hmm. And being a very techie person, I love getting into the weeds of things and solving all the tech problems and just doing all that sort of stuff. So I can relate to that so much as being the starting place and then being okay, how am I going to niche down and really figure out what direction I'm going with that. So I love that you were able to find Dubsado and get into that. Can you actually tell our listeners, for those who may not be familiar with Dubsado, can you talk a little bit about what Dubsado is?
Sure. So Dubsado is what's called a CRM, and that stands for Client Relationship Management. And I love that relationship part in there. Dubsado helps you connect with your clients when you are seeking out clients, such as leads. And if you have like a form that you would send to a lead, or have a form on your website and you want them to connect with you and then have a discovery call. And then, after the discovery call, you want to onboard them. So you send them a proposal and you send them a contract and maybe first month's invoice, or, whatever. It depends on the service, but Dubsado helps you organize that all in one place. Scheduler, forms, invoicing, it keeps all of that together for you. And then if you need to offboard clients, it can help you with that, send surveys, things like that. But the time management that you can have through Dubsado is probably the biggest benefit. For me, it was having everything together in one spot. But it's basically, I hope that answers the question. There's so many specific things that you can do in Dubsado, but it does depend on the service that you have and the business that you have.
Yeah, I really love that it helps just sort of automate the back end. That to me is such a huge component in having an online business. It's really cleaning up the back end of the business and getting some systems and processes in place, because when that part starts to fall apart or doesn't have a smooth process, that kind of bleeds out into how you show up for your clients. And really having that like great client experience, I find is just like what can sometimes set me apart from other people in the industry, is that it's so smooth for them.
Exactly. Yes. And we think of automation in a kind of a negative way, but I like to point out that it doesn't need to be. And there's several different things that you can do within automation, but think about being on a beach somewhere and your lead form link is on your website. You have people checking that out, and they're signing up and they're booking a discovery call with you, and you're still sitting on the beach, wherever that is, while all of that is going on behind the scenes. And really, up until you have a discovery call, or up until you even like send a proposal, you don't have to have that connection, but there are other ways of showing that connection and building relationships, even though it's automated. I don't want to jump ahead.
I love that. I actually, because I live at the beach and walk my dog on the beach twice a day, I get discovery calls, book notifications come through on my phone. I don't personally use Dubsado. I've worked with clients who use it, and I think it's an amazing product. And I love anything that can help systematize, automate the back end of a business. That to me, it's simplification, which is a huge value that I have for my business.
It does. And actually, just backing up a little bit too, we've talked about the process and the automation within Dubsado, but to begin with, setting up your services and getting all of those things fine-tuned to set up in Dubsado brings clarity and a vision for your business that for me was such a transformation that I wanted to help other clients with that. Because a lot of times when you're just starting out your business and you don't know what services you want to offer, or you kind of are lost in how much to charge, or different clients come along and you don't have your boundaries set up, and all of those things are fine when you're just starting out, but there comes a time when you really need those to be fine-tuned, and you don't want to have to adjust that every time you onboard a client. So getting your systems fine-tuned helps with that and brings clarity to some of those questions that you have as you're going along. You have to stick with it. You don't want to change it too often.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. I would love to know, when do you find that, like, at what point in someone's business is a really good time for them to like reach out and work with you and set up Dubsado?
So, like I mentioned, when you're just starting out your business and you're not sure of some things, um, I have worked with very few people at that level. The people that I work with the most know the direction that they'd like to have. They may not know exactly the strategy or the system behind what they want to do, but they have that vision already set. And then I come along and I help them, get that process down onto paper, but also into Dubsado. So I would say most of the people that I work with are kind of in the middle of beginner and full-fledged. What do you call that? I'm not sure.
In the
I
growth
think we're
phase.
all, in some, our businesses are kind of all evolving in some way or fashion, but I guess the direction and vision is there.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, I love it. I would love to talk a little bit about the other tech that you use in your business. As a website and tech integration person, I love talking tech. What do you use for, like, what platform is your website built on?
So my website is Squarespace. And I've liked it. I tried doing, well, you're the website designer person. So tell me the hardest one out there. What is that?
WordPress?
Yes, I tried it in that. It was not for me. I was at a point in the business where I was doing DIY. So that was not for me. And then Squarespace really fit, what I needed to have. And it still does, and I like that I can go in and tweak it and, add photos and update things as I need to.
That's great. And then do you have any courses?
I have a coaching program it's not evergreen, and I do that for a reason. I feel like if you're going to do tech, if you're going to do something like Dubsado, the coaching side of it is really crucial. So I have a program that is a 4-week program, and we go in and we set up your workflows and your system. You do the work, and I'm there to guide you. We meet once a week, and I talk about what we're going to implement, and then you can go back and implement that. And then we meet together the next week, and I answer questions and kind of guide you in that whole process. So I've really enjoyed that. So I guess to answer your question, it's kind of a combined course and coaching program.
I love that. So is that kind of for like the DIYer who needs a little more support than just like, here it is, go do it? It's the one who just a little more support along the way to kind of help hold the hand.
Exactly. Yeah. There's, Dubsado does definitely have a learning curve. And a lot of people are scared away by that when they don't need to be. There's definitely resources out there. And then I also have my VIP set up that I completely come in and do for you, start to finish.
Yep. For the people who are like, just do it.
Yes.
I don't want to touch it. Like,
yeah. And that's kind of how we met through VIP. We were talking a little bit about it earlier, and I started that in 2020, in April of 2020. And I have loved it. I have loved just the whole aspect of my VIP service. And then I loved the person that I went through to learn all of that too.
Yeah. And just for our listeners, so you guys know, it was Sarah Massey is the one that Anna and I both had gone through her program. And then we met in a program we're currently in that's under another wonderful Sarah Massey container. So Sarah was on one of the earlier episodes of the show. I can link that up in the show notes, but she talked all about the magic of VIP days, which are just life changing.
They are. They really are. I've had so much flexibility and, just everything that my business stands for, I found in that.
Love that. I would love to know, as like we all know, like being an entrepreneur, it's not for the faint of heart. Like there's a lot of mindset junk that comes up. And I'd love to know, like, what were some of your fears and doubts that you had when you were starting out your business? And how did you overcome them?
Well, I mentioned that I had no idea what was in the online space. So overcoming some of that when I first started out was a little bit of a hurdle. I'm not one to really be, um, I guess you could call me what is that saying that they always say, when you know just a little bit about everything, but you're not really an expert in anything. And that's how I felt as a VA. And your client may ask you to do several different things. And if you've not done it before, you have to learn all of those things, and then you may not ever use them again. So that's one of the reasons why I niched down and then was really specific even with Dubsado, because I am an expert in that now. And I love that. So that was one hurdle. And my mindset, I am one that just looks for a solution. I don't think about things too much, or I will not do anything. And so I just, if I'm way too overwhelmed with something, I don't start. And so I know the feeling that my clients have, when they come to me with Dubsado and they just don't even know where to begin. So that's maybe something I know about myself, and I just make sure that I'm either surrounded by support from people who do know certain things, or I just try to do it messy and learn from that.
Exactly. I love doing it messy around here. I heard once on a podcast, and it was something that stuck with me just forever. And it was, being an expert doesn't mean you know everything. It means you're willing to find out the answer. I was like, oh, that's so good. And it's so true, because like we can't know everything, but we have to be willing to go and find the answer.
Yeah.
And so I love that, like giving us
Yeah.
permission to not have to be, the other thing too is like someone that I follow pretty closely, Denise Duffield Thomas. She always talks about, don't be a guru, be a contributor.
Yeah.
I like that one too. I would
Yeah.
love to know, what would you say that you're doing that's being bold in the industry? Something that you're doing that's different than kind of anyone else who's doing, like setup, the automation setup, the back end system setup.
So, like I mentioned, automation is not typically known for connection. When we think of automation, we usually think of a robot. Or for me, it was I always go back, and I might be dating myself here, but I always go back to when self checkouts were non-existent, and they started coming in, and I didn't like them because I didn't want to have it replacing a human. And of course, now look at where we are. But automation doesn't have to be that robotic. It doesn't have to be. We don't have to lose connection when we automate. And so I like to bring out that there are different ways to build connection within automation. And One big way is just through branding and making sure that your voice is heard, within canned emails and within different other aspects of Dubsado, what your forms look like and things like that. And then just making sure that you are connecting with your clients, or, your potential clients in different ways on social media, getting involved in their life in some way. And the number one reason I think for that is when we do that, we notice when something is wrong or different, when something's not quite right for our client. And, hopefully it's not anything catastrophic, but if it is, you don't want to be sending a canned email that is inappropriate, whether it's saying something that doesn't fit or at an inappropriate time. And what I like about Dubsado is that you can go in within the client project area and change the form or change the template or the email without changing the main template that goes out to everyone. And maybe that's a little over your head, but the main idea is that you can be flexible and you can adapt when those situations are needed.
I love that. So basically you're saying you can have a template that's set up for everyone that's at a certain step in the workflow. And then you can also go in and modify the template for one specific client without it changing everything or having to change everything. And then so you can be specific within and also have the outside umbrella.
Yes, exactly.
Love that. I love that. I do a lot of saved replies in Google or in Gmail, whatever it's called these days. And it helps me so much to just have those like templates to go in to remember, because I don't remember and I have processes in there for all the different types of services, and I get off a call and here's the things I send out. And so I love having those templates in there, which I do a lot of times, tweak them around and make changes to them so that they fit with the situation.
Yes. I think that's so key. And knowing when those situations are is another key aspect of that.
Yeah. I would love to know. I'm like such a huge fan of celebrating our wins. Like I get the champagne out, I'll get the cheese plate out. Like I'm so big on like, we got to celebrate our wins. What is something that you're really proud of when it comes to your business that we could celebrate?
Oh, that is a fun question. Okay, give me just a second here. Well, I have my program launching up again in February. And so just the fact that I'm past the beta stage and now I'm doing I'm calling it 1.0, is exciting because I feel like I have answers that the beta round gave me, and I'm feeling more confident going forward. And that's a win to me. We always hear of imposter syndrome, and if I compare myself to someone like Sarah Massey, I would easily have imposter syndrome. But when I compare myself to where I was, 6 months ago or something like that, I've progressed and I'm winning. And I think that's something to celebrate.
I think that's a huge celebration. I mean, I think we all get into comparisonitis, and when we can get out of our own way and stop doing that and instead compare ourselves to where we were, because that's the only place we should be comparing ourselves, not to others, because you can't, it's not apples to apples.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I love that. What were some things you learned in the launch of your program? I recently launched at the end of Q4 in 2022. I did my first launch of a digital product, and I learned so much from that launch. Like the first email I sent out was like, it's here, it's live, go get it. Like, and then I immediately get an email from one of the gals that had actually gone through as my case study user and she was like, there's no link in the email. I was like, oh no. I was so careful and like checking that I had everything else right. I completely forgot to even put a link anywhere. And then I started getting other emails from like friends who are like, sorry, I hope you're not going to have a heart attack, but there's no link. I'm like, it's
What good friends though. I mean, I would love to have people like that. I don't mind correction, I want to be able to do it right. Um, I probably learned, well, I'm still learning, but it's a huge process to launch anything. And there's so many bits and pieces. I have a systems brain, and I need to see it clearly. And so, but then I also learn by doing. So I think I probably learned more about the process because I did it. So this round, I am more clear on my process and I'm more prepared for, all the bits and pieces. Where before I was probably scrambling around trying to do them last minute, because, oh yeah, I need to do this. Oh yeah, I need to get this done.
I always tell clients when they're doing any sort of launch, I'm like, just remember, launches will always have something tech that doesn't go right. And really, the first launch, in my opinion, is the first launch is meant to get all the emails written and all the tech set up and find out what wasn't connected properly and like get it all ready to go so that on launch 2, that part's all done. And then we can have different hurdles to climb.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. I mean, that's just this round seems to be going so much easier. And it's like you said, it's because most of it is already done. So
yeah, I love
that's
that.
a nice perk.
I think it's also important too to recognize that like the importance of continuing to launch something and let it keep evolving and the different iterations of it and just keep going. Because like it's not launch once, people, I feel like there's all this talk of like, oh, I created this digital product and I launched it. I made $20,000, $100,000. Like most likely they didn't. That wasn't the first launch. There was different iterations of it. Like you got to baby step your way into it. I mean,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong. Maybe there are people who have done that, but for the most of us, it takes time to build that up. And honestly, like I know my systems wouldn't be able to handle this like large influx of everything coming through. So it's meant to gradually work its way up, in my opinion.
That is such a good point. So true.
I love that. What would you say that you're kind of making waves in the industry? How are you kind of like stirring up things?
Oh, wow. I'm not sure actually, because I kind of, I have just enough of a view, of other people in my industry. And by that question, I think you're meaning Dubsado, or do you mean like just the online service provider industry?
It can be interpreted however you want.
Okay. All right. Well, as far as Dubsado goes, I kind of put my head down and I do my thing. I know what I do. I know that I do it well, and I know that my clients are happy, and that's what counts. So I keep my head up just enough to, get updates and things, to stay relevant. So I don't really know if I'm making headway. I would say the one thing maybe that I haven't seen a lot of people doing, and that's the coaching aspect of Dubsado. I have seen a few courses and things, but I just really don't think that it's something you can buy a course and then go and do it and not have questions as you go along. And so I want to be there to answer those questions. I want to make it as simple as I can for the people who come to me, and are DIYing. Because I've been there. I know that process, and I had lots of questions. And then as far as the online service provider space, I so I mentioned Italy, or you did in the beginning, and we do a lot of adventures in Italy, and have for several years. So it's one of my favorite places. And last year in March, I was there and just about to go and meet a friend that I knew from Instagram, but we'd never met in real life. And she lives in Bologna. And I just had this thought. I was like, wow, what if we could have a retreat here in Rome? And so we met, and we had an Airbnb, and we spent like 2 or 3 days together. And I told her my idea, and she's like, let's do it. And so last year, we had a retreat in Rome for online service providers, and there was not as many people coming after COVID. I think the timing wasn't quite right, but the people that came and the time that we had there was amazing. And I don't know if we'll do that this year or not, but maybe it's like an every other year kind of thing, and maybe next year's the time. And I don't know very many people doing that, although there are quite a few popping up here in the States. So.
I love that so much. I had for the longest time, the dream was Italy. Italy, Italy. That was the dream. That was the big goal. That was what was on the vision board. And then in 2017, we went. And we went with a 14-month-old.
Oh.
Who would this girl learned, she took some of her first like running steps on the cobblestone streets of Italy.
Yes, how fun.
It was amazing and so much fun. It was a lot of work. It was exhausting. We didn't get a lot of sleep. She turned 15 months while we were there. We also went and saw the Swedish family. My husband's side of the family is from Sweden. So we went and spent time with them. And then we took off and went with the baby to Italy. And it was the most amazing. It was everything I expected and better. Like it completely lived up to my expectations.
So what were the major cities that you went to?
We started in Venice, which was probably my favorite place. Venice, we picked up a car in Florence when we left. Went over to the coast, to the five that I always pronounce wrong, so I'm not going to say it.
Cinque Terre.
Thank you. And then we went to Tuscany. And then we were trying to figure out on our way to Rome if we were going to go the coastal route or go the inland route. And we were like, we live at the beach. We love the beach. We're going. My husband's name is Stefan, and we found a Porto Stefano. And we're like, this just makes sense. So we went there.
Perfect.
We randomly stopped at some beach. I can't tell you where or what it was called, but someone then later was like, oh, that's like the best beach in one of the top beaches in Italy or something like that. I'm like, wait, we randomly stopped at the best beach in Italy? Like, how cool was that?
Yeah, that's great.
And then we ended in Rome.
Aren't you just so glad that we have, I don't know when you started your business, but I am continually so thankful for the business that I have and the flexibility that I have, and just, yeah, every bit of it makes things like that possible.
Yeah, that's exactly why I do this and why we do this. That's a piece of it. I also love like the clients I work with, and the impact I have. I don't feel when I was working corporate, I was making that kind of impact on people's lives as I do now.
Yeah, I feel like it's very individualized in my area anyway. And I love helping other clients have that same flexibility, with their businesses and stuff. And Dubsado and having automations like that provides that. So
I love that.
It's a win-win.
It is a win-win. How did you come up with your business name?
I started out with ACB freelancing when I was a VA. And I didn't really like that. I didn't think it was very personal. And it's my initials, but nobody really knows that. So, so I was trying to think through, and the reason why it's that is because if you think of like a letter that you get in the mail, and it's signed most sincerely, or, whatever. And so that feeling that you have when you're connecting with someone and you're getting a letter in the mail and it, you're special. Well, that's kind of the thought process behind the most sincerely Anna. So it's like, that special warm, fuzzy feeling that you get when you get mail.
I love that so much. And that was exactly what I was assuming where it came from. And I love it so much because it does. It, like, just reading, I'm like, what a warm, fuzzy feeling that gives me.
Yeah. Oh, good. Good. Yeah. I mean, it's just a rarity that we have that kind of authentic connection, but that's what I really want to strive for in building relationships in my business. So the name fit.
Anna, this has been so amazing. I do have one question that I ask everyone who comes on the show, and that is, what is one piece of advice you would give someone when they're first starting out that would help them be bolder, be louder, and make waves in their business?
I would say the ideas that you have and the uniqueness that you offer are there for a reason, and don't not do them because you're scared or fearful or afraid of the unknown. Just go ahead, start, do it messy if you need to, but go ahead and do it and get that support behind you that you, so you can feel like you have all these people running behind you, pushing you on.
I love that so much. I really found that my business started progressing in a better way and going the direction I wanted it to when I started investing in, like, coaching and joining programs and communities where I had more support. And that was something that when I first started out, I did not have in the online space. And so that was something that really changed my business.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree. I would say that the investments that I have made have paid forward so much more than I ever imagined.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. Can you tell our listeners where they can find out more about you, find out more about how you can help them and your program?
You will most likely find me on Instagram at Most Sincerely Anna. And then I also have my website that is mostsincerelyanna.com. And my program is on there, or just send me a DM and see if I'm launching. I will launch probably 3 times this year. So the next one is coming up in February.
Wonderful. I will link all of that up in the show notes. Thank you so much for being on the show today. This was such a fun conversation.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode. Be sure to check out the show notes at lauracomark.com/podcast. And if you're ready to turn your website into a marketing machine, get more sales, save time, and simplify the back end of your business, grab my free resource, Power Integrations for your website. Head on over to lauracomark.com/power. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next week. Bye now.